Pressure is mounting from political parties on President Cyril Ramaphosa to act against Health Minister Dr Zweli Mkhize following his latest admission that the awarding of a 150 million rand tender to communications company Digital Vibes was irregular. Mkhize made the admission on Wednesday following the outcome of an internal investigation into the tender awarded to his former private assistant and former spokesperson. The tender was for services related to the National Health Insurance Program as well as government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. President Ramaphosa says he will only make a decision on the fate of Health Minister Dr Zweli Mkhize after receiving a report from the Special Investigating Unit. Well, to expand more on this, we are now joined by leadership expert Dr Mazwe Majola, who now joins us on the line. Dr Mazwe, good afternoon and thank you so much for making time for us. First of all, looking into that press briefing that happened earlier on this week and listening to what the minister had to say around the question of a conflict of interest, do you think that he dealt with that in a satisfactory manner?
Well, undoubtedly, Dr. Zweli Mkhize's name has been tarnished and soiled already by these allegations and these accusations. So, as an honorable member, I think he must just do a noble thing and ask the president to give him a leave of something, just to step aside until his name is cleared, because he undoubtedly or arguably he has done considerable well since the advent of COVID-19, and it really you can see that he's a very hardworking minister, but unfortunately this is going to distract him and this is going to disturb him. So yeah, he explained his part, he defended himself. We are still waiting for the SIU report, but while we are still waiting for that, it's not an admission of guilty, but it's just to say, as a responsible leader, as an ethical leader, I'm asking the president, I'm asking my boss just to release me for a while we're still sorting up this thing. Once my name has been cleared, then I'll come back and continue with my job.
Mm-hmm. And even on the issue around the clearing of the name, if we look at the SIU's investigation into tender irregularities here in Gauteng and how it dealt with that matter, which at a later stage, of course, implicated the MEC for Health at the time, Dr Bandile Masuku. And the issue was more around the oversight, the failure around the oversight, an email, for instance, that he should have read, that he didn't read. But eventually that led to him being fired by the premier of the premier of the province. How do you think this time around such a matter could be dealt with differently? Because on the other end, you still have Bandile Masuku, who argues and says that but there was no corruption that was found on my end. And this is a similar argument that's now being made by Dr Zweli Mkhize based on their own internal investigation.
And this is the cost or price of leadership. The buck stop at you. As a leader, you've got to be responsible, you've got to take charge of your department. Anything goes wrong, unfortunately, it will always be, it will always come back to you as a leader. It's just a cost of leadership. If you are in leadership, you've got to be above board, and you've got to take charge of your team, of your department, of the systems. You've got to make sure you know everything that is happening. You've got to, unfortunately, it's just a responsibility of leadership. Leadership is not an easy thing. I always say to people, don't rush to leadership positions because there's a huge cost that we need to pay when we're a leader. And you've got to make sure that everything in your department, in your section, in your company, in your organization is done correctly.
There's also what we've seen, it's almost like a trend. If you look back at the Waterkloof Air Force landing issue, for instance, where you hear that it was said that the name number 1 was dropped. You look at other instances of allegations of corruption, in particular this matter with Dr. Zweli Mkhize as well. These are people who have been working with them, with the minister himself. Does that then not apply pressure on the people who work internally when it comes to awarding of tenders as well, for the mere fact that this is somebody who is aligned to the minister? Therefore, the sentiment would be then, let's make sure that the tender is actually awarded to them.
You know, I always say this, Adrian, that's a very important question you're asking. I always say that we are facing a danger of losing very competent and good senior leaders in government, because whenever there are these problems and challenges relating corruption, the people that find themselves to be dealt with are your managers and the political heads, and they get away with murder. So it's a question of small fish being fried and the big fish being let go. And this really is going to let people leave the public service, or the good one not wanting to join government, because they'll always know that, look, when things go bad, the political heads, they run away. They've got a way to be protected. They've got a way to defend themselves, and the senior managers or the people who are in management positions are the one who are fried.
What we see as well is the ANC also dealing with this issue around how far do we go to say that this particular person is in a leadership position, for instance, within the ANC. Let's speak about, for instance, the Secretary General of the ANC, and then you have his sons who bid for a tender, and the undue influence that the pressure that might come from the mere fact that this is somebody who is aligned to a particular senior person within the party or even within government. How do you then strike a balance around that and try to insulate even those in leadership, if we were to assume and say that they were not involved in the awarding of the tender, as the minister has argued during that press briefing as well, that ministers don't get involved in tender, but one can't take away the fact that by mere association and being linked to a particular individual, that might then apply pressure on those who are part of the bid awarding committees?
It is an undeniable fact, Adrian, that political heads have a huge influence when it comes to these things. Of course, they yield so much power and so much influence, and when things go wrong and they run away, they jump, they say, no, we're not involved. But when things go right, they want to take credit. So it's just that unfortunate part that you find in government that, as I've said earlier on, that when things are right and goes right, they want to take credit. When things go bad, they want to run away and blame others. They don't want to account. We need accountable leaders. Leaders who will answer for the outcomes of their behaviors and of their actions and of their choices. We need ethical leaders. Leaders who will stand up and say, yes, I was wrong. I take the blame. I am very sorry. I apologize. Those are strong leaders, but leaders who will run away and try to blame others and point fingers to others, that's a very bad leadership. We now really, especially or in particular within the ANC, in relation to this step aside resolution, we need a high level of consistency, of transparency, of fairness, of courage, of resilience, of impartiality, so that there is no one who's seen to be favored or favoring another. That is the huge price or cost of President Ramaphosa is finding himself now to be seen to be consistent as a leader, to be decisive, and to make sure that he's not favoring anyone, but he must be transparent and be impartial.
Do you think that he's dealing with this particular one in a satisfactory manner, considering as well that last year when we went into lockdown and there was the announcement of the monies that will be made available and calling on people to donate to try and help us out of the COVID-19 pandemic, that he said that no money will be stolen, and we know that what has happened, and a fusion center was then set up. But now you have a situation where you have the actual minister, almost like the principal, the one who's leading the fight against COVID-19, being implicated in this particular tender. Do you think that the president, as the head of cabinet or the chairperson of cabinet, is dealing with this matter in a satisfactory way?
Well, I mean, fair enough, Mkhize. Obviously, we are living in a constitutional democracy with a human rights culture. Obviously, he has to make sure that when he takes a decision or he makes a decision, it must be watertight. So, yes, he's waiting for the SIU report so that when he makes that decision, at least he's got something that is basing on that decision on. But he could have said, especially with the sensitivity, as we are saying, of this department, he could have said, Minister, I'm not saying you are guilty, but I'm just giving you a long leave or at the moment while we are dealing with this matter. When this matter is dealt with, when your name is cleared, I'll bring you back. But for the sake of transparency and for the sake of focus, because undoubtedly the Minister of Health is going to be distracted by this thing. So he's been doing so well in tackling this COVID-19. So anywhere and everywhere he goes, people will be asking him about this thing. So this is going to defocus him. So the president would have said, for the sake of focus, for the sake of transparency, I'm not saying you are guilty. I know that you are still waiting for the SIU report, but I'm just asking you just to take few days, few weeks until we sort this thing, and then you'll come back after that.
So the principal of the National School of Government, Busani Mngcoweni, in one of his opinion pieces in the Daily Maverick, for instance, he speaks about the issue around comradeship and what it means to be a comrade. And I'd just like your view on this and how this particular matter is being dealt with. He says that being a comrade demands of you to be principled such that you can denounce wrongdoing and call for harsher punishment, even if it's your own girlfriend or brother who must face the music, hence the adage, without fear or favor.
And I will add and say it starts with you as a comrade, as an ethical comrade, as a responsible comrade, as an accountable comrade. It starts with you. You don't have to wait for your boss, for your leader, for your party to dismiss you or to fire you. It starts with you when your name has been tarnished, where you would say that because the situation is like this now, I would like to step aside and allow this matter to unfold until my name is cleared. That's why I'm saying, really, it doesn't mean that we are admitting guilt, but it's just to say you are allowing a conducive environment to unfold until the matter has been resolved.
Just a final one. Do you agree with the sentiment around, for instance, there are some people, including political parties and some even within the ANC, saying that Dr. Zweli Mkhize should step aside? But of course, they're speaking about step aside in relation to the ANC resolution around step aside. But that resolution says step aside once facing criminal charges as well as corruption charges. So almost leaving it in the purview of the prosecutorial authorities. Only after the prosecutorial authority has taken steps, then we as the ANC will then also expect you to act. But in this case, there is no criminal finding that has been made. However, though there are these allegations, how could the party be dealing with this better outside of the step-aside resolution?
Well, knowing ANC as ANC, we know that they will wait until until Zweli Mkhize is being charged. And that is when they can say, now you have been charged, then you must step aside. That is why I'm saying great leaders and noble leaders and ethical comrades should not wait until that. On their own volition, they must say that, look, there is this thing that is happening around my name, so I'd like to step aside while I'm clearing my name, so that you remove the burden of your organization and the tension to take some decisions against you. You're just doing it on yourself, So unfortunately, we know that the ANC obviously will wait until Zweli Mkhize is being charged, and then they will act against him. And of course, we don't know how this matter will drag, because you know that even once the SIU report has been released, depending on which level, if he find Zweli Mkhize being guilty, probably he will appeal. He will, so they will dragging and drag. But Zweli Mkhize must man enough as a leader, and he will be respected for that. He will be remembered for that. That at least he stepped aside on his volition. He did not wait for the organization to release him, but it's himself who said, let me clear my name, or let me leave the organization and government while my name is being cleared.
Dr. Mazwe Majola, thank you so much for your time. That is Dr. Mazwe Majola joining us for that conversation around the development around the Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, and of course the President saying yesterday that he will await the SIU report.